With 353 incidents at sea last year, modern-day piracy remains a very real problem for many shipping companies. 2015 saw a 10% rise in maritime crime in Southeast Asia, with the region accounting for two-thirds of all security incidents. But in other areas like the Indian Ocean, the threat of piracy seems to be easing. Ian Millen is the Chief Operating Officer of Dryad Maritime, which specialises in marine security. He joins us live now from London. Thanks so much for your time tonight. Firstly, that's quite a surprising figure. Two-thirds of all attacks happen in Southeast Asia, because we're more familiar with piracy incidents in seas near Africa. So why is Asia such a hotspot?
Asia is a hotspot in terms of the sheer volume of incidents, but it should be said that the vast majority of these are more low level. That doesn't mean that they're trivial. Sometimes they include violence, but there are a lot more of robberies of simple commodities like ship stores and when ships are at anchor or alongside. So there's still some very serious crime that takes place in Asia, but the sheer volume is more accounted for by the level of the crime that takes place.
As I mentioned in the introduction, it seems that incidents in seas near Africa seem to be declining. And of course, the Somali piracy problem was given the Hollywood treatment by Tom Hanks in recent years. But why is the problem in that region dissipating somewhat?
I think it's fair to say that it's reduced and been broadly contained in the Indian Ocean. In the Gulf of Guinea, it's a different story. But to look at the Indian Ocean first of all, it has been subject to a massive international effort alongside the efforts of the shipping industry in waters that are broadly international in their nature, so not regional and territorial waters, as a lot of the piracy that takes place within the Gulf of Guinea and West Africa is. And the conditions have been right with the failed state of Somalia to apply a template of operations that's everything from international naval forces, from the shipping industry's reaction also with its own best management practice, and that of the provision of armed guards embarked in ships, something that is not so simple in other areas of the world. And all of these factors together have combined to get the right kind of medicine that has been able to broadly contain Somali piracy. By contrast, in West Africa, you're talking about a region which is full of sovereign national states with their own restrictions on the kind of solutions that might be able to tackle piracy in that region. So it's never as simple, and there is a tendency to oversimplify piracy in all the regions of the world, but the conditions are so different everywhere you look.
Well, one of the conditions that seems to be affecting the incidence of piracy at sea is the fall in crude oil prices, which, as we know, are at record lows at the moment. What does the fall in the oil price have to do with attacks at sea?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that as the primary reason for some of the drop-off in attacks at sea. Again, it's a complex problem and it's one of oversimplification to some degree. I agree that the price of oil and therefore the profitability of the oil once it's into criminal black markets can be a factor, but it's only one factor, and I would suggest not the primary factor. If we look in places like Southeast Asia, for example, where we've seen a spate of hijacks of ships for things like the fuel of the cargoes of petrol and diesel and marine gas oil and the like, that went on at times when the prices were high. It went on when the price was low, and it's more the efforts of the regional authorities, the Malaysians, the Indonesians in particular, and supported by other regional nations such as Australia, that has managed to get a grip of the criminal gangs that have been involved in this, especially in the last quarter of last year, and that's why we having seen 12 attempted attacks in 2015. Once we got to August, that was the last one we saw, thanks to that good law enforcement work.
Okay, and in terms of looking forward, you mentioned that because of the concerted effort by regional powers, the number of incidents seem to be on the decline. Are you confident that perhaps piracy on that large scale, with what we're used to in the past, with seeing hostages being taken and in some cases killed, are you confident that that will be a thing of the past?
Well, once again, I think it depends where you look. In terms of Somali piracy, a return to industrial levels of Somali piracy, I think that's unlikely, but we're not being complacent about that. In the Gulf of Guinea, kidnap of crew for ransom continues to this day, and we're seeing that in the first few months of this year, as we have in other months. And given the position that the oil price has driven down the piracy for refined products at sea, where we've already seen one tanker hijacked for that very reason in the Gulf of Guinea this year. So in those regions, business as usual as far as the Gulf of Guinea is concerned. In Southeast Asia, I expect that we will see more of the same. However, the criminal enterprises are very adaptable, and you'll find that it's a cyclical thing. 2014 and 2015 were big years for the cargo theft in Southeast Asia, but then law enforcement got on top of it. No doubt, as criminals are very adaptable and they're not subject to national or business corporate law, they will again start to find new ways of making money. So I think it's something that's probably with us in the long term, but the fact is that in certain areas things are getting better, in others they're getting worse.
OK, we'll have to leave it there, but Ian Millen in London, thank you again for your time tonight.
Thank you.